Changed or not changed? Okay. And then a third question. Okay, we'll see what's happened. Going to close it. Has not changed. Okay. Highly relevant, but not changed. And then the third question is the original question. Yes, ethics is, yes, but ethics is irrelevant. Has nothing to do with your decision as a CEO. Yes, ethically acceptable. Yes, but some ethical concerns. Uncertain, but not enough information. No further ethical analysis required. No. Further ethical analysis is required. Sorry, absolutely not. Ethically irresponsible. Or absolutely not, and ethics has nothing to do with it. Everybody voted? Anybody still waiting? Let's see where you come out. We're getting better at this all the time. So, not surprisingly, given the answer to the second question, we're pretty much where we were. So, Ronaldo, this really is your turn.
I'd like to thank the Centre for inviting me to participate in this really quite interesting conversation. This past month, I found myself involved in a campaign called Stop the Murder Music. It is a campaign that understands itself as both fighting back against hate speech in dance hall, as well as refusing to be silenced by the threats of violence from some selected Jamaican dance hall artists who have specifically targeted gays, lesbians, and trans people in their music. I joined this campaign because I could find deeply compelling ethical reasons to take a stand against homo hatred, both in Canada and the Caribbean. I will not go into all the reasons why I find it necessary to support sanctions in the case of the dancehall artists Elephant Man, Sizzla, and others, but suffice to say that these artists call for the outright extermination of gays, lesbians, and trans people. Therefore, in my view, this should not be allowed to work in Canada. I make this argument in relation to the well-established hate speech legal precedents in this country. By the way, Cool House, the venue in Toronto that was going to, where the concerts were going to take place, just tonight withdrew their venue for the concert, so that's a victory for us. I've begun my comments on the controversy concerning 50 Cent in this way because I want to make clear that the two things are quite different. They pose different ethical dilemmas. So let me say immediately that I believe that 50 Cent should have been allowed to perform in Toronto. The remainder of my comments will point to why I take this stand vis-à-vis 50 Cent, which is obviously in opposition to the stance I began with concerning some dancehall artists. Rap music is a musical genre that consists of many, rap music is a musical form that consists of many different genres. At least three prominent genres are clear. Party rap, music for dancing to, conscious rap, politically and community-oriented music which uplifts, and gangster rap, music claiming to portray the hard realities of ghetto living. Each of these genres have attached to them artists that are specifically identified with the genre. However, artists tend to also cross over into all the genres. They are not discrete. Thus, a gangster rapper can produce a party rap song or a conscious song and vice versa. The romantic story of rap's invention in the late 1970s in New York City and its evolution has been rewritten to place conscious rap at the center. But a more accurate story would be that party rap constitutes the foundations of hip-hop culture, which is rap music, graffiti art, and breakdancing, with conscious rap being smuggled into the party and then later finding its own niche, and yet later dominating for a while, the mid-1980s to the early 1990s. Conscious rap period of domination is best characterized by the rise of rappers like Public Enemy, KS1, and so on. By the 1990s, gangster rap emerged as the most significant genre of rap and hip-hop culture in the post-Reagan era. It was an era characterized by military-like assaults on poor black and Latina communities under the guise of a war on drugs and gangs. This period ushered in the vast and punishing U.S. prison industrial complex that many scholars today term a gulag. The impact of the Reagan era still reverberates and sits directly in relation to the rise of gangster rap. Thus, the context that gangster rap sought to represent is one which held some important political resonance for the context of life in the Reagan period and continuing today, the further impoverishment of urban poor people. Take, for example, a song like Fuck the Police by NWA, Niggas with Attitude, that caused a tremendous controversy, but was really about the realities of police brutality and racial profiling in urban neighborhoods. Gangster rap quickly morphed from such urban critique to become a nihilistic fantasy of hardness in the ghetto. Nonetheless, many of us became quickly troubled by the fantasies and nihilism of gangster rap, which quickly gave in to baser forms of representation, supported by claims of representing the reality or keeping it real of the ghetto. Gangster rap's emergence and domination as the most significant genre of rap in the last decade has been worrying, and yet its longevity makes sense. It is good to see that its longevity might finally be waning, since SoundScan reports that Kanye West's most recent album, Graduation, is doing better than 50 Cent's new album, Curtis. Its longevity makes sense in terms of the deeply entangled and complicated racial history and play of U.S. culture. The gangster rap figure has many resonances in U.S. culture. These resonances range from the romance of the cowboy figure, to the outlaw figure, to the mafia or gangster figure, to the broader and more general symbols of rebelliousness and the accompanying discourses and ideologies of freedom that often get attached to them. Thus, gangster rappers tapped into a national psyche that already existed. By tapping into a national psyche, gangster rappers also drew on long-held stereotypes of African Americans as well. In this particular case, they drew on the stereotype of the bad nigger, the trickster, and the player. These stereotypes, maybe even archetypes, have a long, complicated, and complex racial history in the context of black-white race relations of U.S. culture. It is not surprising that gangster rap really struck a chord in the popular culture when groups from the West Coast entered the fray. Think of the pervasive mythology of going west and the Wild West. I'm too far away. And the Wild West of U.S. culture. Sorry about that. It is really quite difficult to understand gangster rap in its fullest impact without knowing or being able to glean some of the deeper histories that give rise to it as form. In the absence of such histories, many people come to see the images of gangster rap as authentic black culture, including black peoples themselves. 50 Cent's music, then, draws on that history and should be understood as both an outcome of a set of deeper racial structures and feelings, as well as representative of those structures and feelings. While the caricature that his lyrics articulate has some basis in reality, the basis is quite thin. What the fantasies of his lyrics relay is a hyper-reality of poverty, crime, and the complicated racial politics that has produced the United States as we know it, and black people's place within it, which is always complicated, and even more so in the post-civil rights period. The complications of the story, therefore, go far beyond rap music and requires wider and deeper analyses than merely understanding gangster rap as nihilistic, violent, and dangerous. The entire U.S. cultural economy is at stake. As 50 Cent puts it, the entire USA is about the idea of get rich or die trying. I was opposed then and remain opposed now to Canadian politicians' attempt to ban 50 Cent from performing in the country. 50 Cent's music does not advocate the extermination of any identifiable group like the dancehall artist I began with. While the fantasies of 50 Cent's lyrics are, from my perspective, politically problematic, I think that he is only representative of a vast network of capitalism that markets very specific images of fictionalized blackness to Euro-Americans. The same Euro-Americans who for 400 years have had a deep desire to simultaneously identify with and disidentify